First up, we have Clefable, the pre-release stamped Clefable to be exact. The pre-release stamp is supposed to be aligned to the bottom right corner of the illustration window, but many copies have been discovered with the stamp on an angle, skewed, inverted, and just generally kind of all over the place. Flareon can sometimes be found with ink hickeys in the background of the illustration, but this one can be kind of hard to see sometimes since the background of the illustration is a mix of magenta and blue. So both Kangaskhan and Snorlax have this additional white ink streak on the left side of the illustration window, which looks like this. And then both these cards can also be found with yellowish streaks, which some collectors call the highlighter error. Some first edition holo pincer cards have this strange looking mark by the first edition stamp. Collectors and also PSA have designated this the scratch holo, based on its shape. This is a fun one. Did you notice that there's two different electrodes in the Jungle set? Well, not really. All of the non-holo first edition electrodes were printed with the base set artwork, so it basically had the wrong artwork on it. They corrected this for the unlimited run. This Butterfree misprint is one of the more famous errors of Jungle, as the small black ink hickey's placement happens to turn the 1 into a D, so everyone calls this the D edition Butterfree. Now, Eevee actually has the same misprint, but it's not quite aligned the same, so really Eevee doesn't have that nice of a D. Two ink hickeys can be found on some Executor cards, one at the top and one in the bottom left corner, but these are two separate printer errors to be clear, and they haven't been found on the same card. There's an ink hickey in the tree of some Persian cards, and many have said that this looks like an apple due to its placement and the magenta coloring. All Rapidash cards say put Rapidash on the stage 1 card at the top instead of saying put Rapidash on the basic Pokemon. This wasn't corrected until the Legendary Collection reprint, and the same error exists on Seaking. Okay, this one is a bit of a bad egg. Execute can sometimes have a printer hickey at the top left of the card or a yellow ink stain on the left of the card, and then some copies can also be found with additional magenta ink. Some Jigglypuff cards have a blue spot on the tree branch to the left of the illustration. And for Meowth, a big area of missing yellow ink can be found on some copies. This is actually very similar to the Jigglypuff misprint. The female symbol after Nidorann's name has a space before it, but it really shouldn't, and this was corrected in later Nidoran cards. I guess Oddish is sensitive about its weight because an ink hickey can sometimes obstruct the weight. Some Paris cards have a spot of missing black ink. It covers a little bit of the jungle symbol as well as some of the attack damage numbers. A red ink hickey is sometimes found at the top of Pikachu. Collectors say this resembles tweezers or maybe chopsticks. Some first edition Venonat cards have a vertical black line along the left of the card's border. So just like base set, Jungle suffered from a huge range of errors and misprints that affect the holofoil pattern of the card. And actually, Kangaskhan and Snorlax from earlier, they fall into this category. But one of the more prominent errors is called holoshift. This is one of, if not the most desirable misprint from the original sets. This is caused by the white layer of ink being shifted, sometimes horizontally, but usually vertically. There are also some jungle cards with the screen holo error, where additional gold ink makes a unique effect that looks like a yellow screen is over top of the holo pattern. But my favorite holo error is the double holo. This is when the cardstock gets a double foil treatment, accidentally of course, resulting in two holo patterns slightly misaligned from each other. Okay, I hope you don't mind, but this one only applies to the Japanese version of jungle cards, and I think it's really cool, so I decided to throw it in. All of the holo cards have the holo pattern that seemingly overlaps the bottom corner of the evolution box. On a slightly more technical level, what's happening here is the bottom corner of the evolution box doesn't have any white ink. Okay, so some jungle cards have magenta ink on the back. It looks like this, and well, that's it, basically. From what we know, it only affected some first edition non-holo rares, and there aren't very many of these, but it is super cool. If you don't have some of these magenta back cards in your collection, then you can turn that frown upside down and look for some inverted backs. I'm pretty sure this error has come and gone multiple times throughout the history of Pokemon cards, but it's somewhat common with the Wizards of the Coast era cards, especially Jungle. And of course, we have the missing jungle set symbol. This is quite possibly the most well-known error of the jungle set. The initial run of the unlimited cards was missing the jungle set symbol on just the holos. And this error is fairly common. I'll link to these cards on eBay in the description if you want to have a look at them. There are plenty of examples for sale right now and at good prices, and that just goes to show how common this error is. There are tons and tons of errors on these old cards. A lot of them are one-of-a-kind errors, and many have actually not been discovered yet. So for that reason, this list is in no way complete, but I think it's fair to say that the jungle set was full of mistakes.